Hello and welcome to another fine edition of TYTSports. We're here with Britton Harden, the always sassy and quite douchey Britton Harden. Britton, how are you today, my friend?
I'm feeling quite sassy and douchey this morning.
Hey man, that sounds like the norm. So Gennady Golovkin is not going to fight Erislandy Lara. Here's what Lara tweeted. How about you at GGG Boxing? Me fight you anytime. So obviously he's saying, you know, let's get it on. Let's fight. The reason, according to the K2 promoter, here is his quote, the reason why they will not fight is he, as in Lara, is not approved by HBO and never on our radar. Okay, let's stop right there. Why isn't he on your radar? Why would he not be on their radar? And then I'll continue.
The same reason why Lara fails to be on any top fighter's radar, because he's dangerous and he's a threat. Now, from a business standpoint, it makes sense that he wouldn't be on their radar. He fights at 154.
He would have to move up in weight.
Gennady Golovkin or Gennady Golovkin come down in weight, depending on, you know, where they choose to have the fight.
The likely scenario would be that Lara would move up in weight.
Absolutely.
To fight Golovkin.
But see, or they could fight at a catch weight.
It could.
Which wouldn't make for a legitimate championship fight. But, you know, it happens.
But I'd watch it.
Absolutely. What Gennady Golovkin is a master of is making fighters fight his fight, which is he fights behind the jab and he throws a really good right hand, and that left hook is crushing. And so once you feel that pressure, you just feel like you have to throw bombs to get them off of you. And then the exchange is where he usually hurts people.
It would be a very sexy fight, in my opinion, because as you said, excuse me, Lara is the kind of guy that has the great ring generalship. He stays on the outside. He doesn't really ever get out of his comfort zone. We saw it with Angulo. He got knocked down twice, but then he rallied right back like he never even got knocked down at all.
And every time he got hurt, he would stand up on his feet like a man. He would strap him back up, and he'd never even look like he was...
He looked a little wobbly.
No, definitely wobbly.
Yeah.
But to me, in his face, he never looked stressed or concerned.
Never panicked.
Never panicked.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, we always talk about how boxing is a mental sport. If he's still cool, calm, and collected, you know, upstairs where it matters, then, you know, he's practically already won the fight.
Can we also say that, and we'll get back to the quote in just a moment, can we also say that Erislandy Lara is one of the most unlucky fighters of all time? Because look, he got the total shaft against Paul Williams where he dominated overhand left repeatedly on Paul Williams, and that was post Sergio Martinez.
And boxing is not always the luckiest of sports, you know. A lot goes into boxing, and the person who's the most deserving of a victory or a big fight is not always the receiving end of the win or the big time fight. And he's a dangerous fighter, you know, which makes you not necessarily want to move him along, because you put him in the ring with the GGG. Let's say you put him in the ring with Gennady Golovkin and he beats Gennady Golovkin. Now, all of that hype and money that HBO's put into Gennady Golovkin kind of goes down the drain.
A la Lushan Butte when he lost to Carl Froch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, or you put him in the ring with a Canelo Alvarez, who obviously has a problem with slick boxers and has never been in the ring with someone as slick and fast as him. You put him in the ring with a...
Wait, what do you mean he hasn't been in the ring with someone as slick and fast as him?
The only person who Canelo fought who was as slick and fast as him was Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
And he got shut out.
Right.
You put him in the ring with a southpaw with similar skill, and you know, and who's naturally a bigger guy, he might put Canelo down.
You really think so? You think Lara would put Canelo down?
I think that he's a naturally bigger.
Words.
No, I'm saying what I'm saying is, well, obviously it only takes one punch in boxing.
No, I understand.
You know, it only takes one punch that you don't see to completely put you out. But I'm not saying that his power is beyond the realm of putting Canelo down at all. I mean, Canelo,
considering that he broke the bone in Angulo's
exactly,
face. Yeah.
and sure. He's obviously, he knows angles and he knows distance. And he knows where he can hit and not be hit necessarily. And I mean, not saying that we don't know. We've only seen Canelo hurt once, you know, in his career, and it was from a naturally bigger guy. It was Miguel Cotto's older brother, Jose Cotto.
Yeah.
He hurt him. I mean, and that's coming from a naturally bigger man. I'm saying if Lara can land at the same percentage as a Mayweather, and he's landing those punches that Canelo doesn't necessarily see, like Mayweather was, and he's a naturally bigger guy, who's to say that he can't stagger and hurt him?
The one thing that I like about Lara is that he takes to Twitter. He retweets fans like crazy, so I like seeing that sort of feedback with the Twitter community. But not only that, I like seeing how he is calling out anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
He's calling out Mayweather. He's retweeting people that are like, oh, you need to fight Mayweather. You need to fight Cotto. He's like, yeah, do it.
Well,
let's get down to business.
This is the social media era. This is the social media era where it makes any conglomerate, any brand, any person, you know, one click away. It makes them immediately accessible. You're not going to say you didn't see my tweet, especially if millions of people saw it. So fighting, the business of boxing is about, which is going to be a segue to our later conversation, what do the fans want to see? Because if the fans aren't going to pay to see a pay-per-view fight, there's no sense in making it. If I can create a big enough hype myself to fight a fighter, then they have to fight me. You know, I mean, and that's why the fights like Mayweather-Pacquiao are so mind-boggling why they haven't happened, because everyone wants to see the fight still.
The promoter for K2, continuing along, somehow, never on the radar. He should be calling out Quillen if he wins. He becomes interesting. Lara fights on Showtime and had draws with Vanez Martirosyan and Molina. GGG versus Stevens equals high ratings. Who watches Lara? Lara fights on Showtime and is junior middle. Why would he be on our radar?
Now, the first half of the statement where he's asking why would he be on our radar, it makes sense from a business standpoint. The later half of the statement where he's talking about his draws and his losses or what have you, that's all BS. Because anyone who's seen any of Lara's fights, you can make an argument this is an undefeated 154-pounder. Yeah. Anyone who's seen any of those controversial losses or decisions. You know, this guy, and this is why I called him on your show once the tough luck kid. You know, he goes in there and he could pitch a shutout, and they're still going to give it to the better known fighter. I think that, in my personal opinion, he was winning that Angulo fight. I think that had he not broke that orbital bone, I think they still would have gave that fight to Angulo.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Why is that? Because of the crowd that was around him? Or
no,
what?
because Angulo is
a pro-Angulo crowd, in case you missed it.
Angulo had the bigger name. He did enough work to make the fight competitive, and
he brought the fight to Lara.
I mean, aside from that, though, Lara was boxing him. He was picking his spots, and he was landing the cleaner, harder punches. The work that Angulo was putting in against the ropes weren't always connecting to the body. He was hitting a lot of shoulders. He was hitting a lot of elbows. And I mean, are you going to count just because he's throwing punches, or is he having to land punches?
Wow.
Which is, you know, good judging, good refereeing. That's outside
Beauty's
of our
in the eye of
realm.
the beholder, unfortunately. In boxing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But my point being is that they were trying to put Angulo on the track that he's on right now anyway. And you see he ends up getting the fight with Canelo anyway.
And Lara does not.
Exactly. Yeah. So had he won the fight, Lara would have had to go have a seat. We never would have heard from him.
You're not going to pull a Paulie in Houston, are you? You're not going to do a boxing's full of shit. Boxing, I've been doing this shit. Boxing's full of shit.
No, I'm not saying that, but you know what that is. I know what that is. You know, anyone who is a real boxing enthusiast knows that there is a certain business behind boxing. And the person with the bigger name usually is going to be on that A side to the fight.
So who could be next for Lara? I mean, we talked about with GGG, but who's going to be next for Lara? It appears, by the way, that Andy Lee is going to fight GGG, even though he got crushed by Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Who do you think Lara could fight next? Who will even take a fight with him at this point?
And that's why he's taking to Twitter. And I'm sorry I didn't get to finish his point, but that's the beauty of us growing up in the social media era, especially for these boxers trying to make a career for themselves. It's a gift and a curse, but I mean, he's blatantly screaming out, nobody wants to fight me. None of the top-rated fighters want to fight me. They're running from me. I'm going to call them all out, and let's see who comes to the table. Because who do you ever see calling out Lara at 154? Nobody's calling him out, and he has a legitimate name.
But that goes back to our point that he's just not a household name to the casual guy. So from a business standpoint, if they think that, look, we totally disagree with them. I disagree with them, and you do too. We know that Lara is a superior boxer, superior, fantastic skills, hard to beat. But from a business standpoint, if you see this guy that's dangerous to your fighter, and his prestigious record and whatnot.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's no.
That's why.
If I were controlling these fighters, not to cut you off, if I were controlling these fighters, I would also do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because it makes business sense.
Right. And from a fan standpoint, I feel for them. I really do.
For example, I love the Charlo brothers. I think that they are the rise. I think that they are the rising stars of boxing. I think that the way they're moving their career along is amazing. They're, stepping up in challenges every time they get into the ring. But I don't think they're...
A la Gabriel Rosado.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a legitimate challenge. And he overcame it with flying colors. In the next fight, I guarantee you it's going to be tougher because that's the way they like to compete. My point in bringing their name into this conversation is I don't think that... I think it's Jermell who is going to fight Molina for a 154 belt. I don't think that he should be in that ring before Lara.
Who will be next for Lara, you think?
Honestly, man, I thought about it, and not anybody that I really like to see him in the ring with. I really think that he deserves a big fight.
Of course.
I mean, if Canelo beats Angulo, which he should, I would love to see Canelo take the fight with Lara.
Yeah.
And the excuse that they make is the excuse that the Canelo camp makes is, people want to see a fight and Lara runs too much. It's boxing. Get in the ring and fight with a boxer. We see that you don't do well with it. Show us that you overcome that, and show us that you've learned from the fight with Floyd and that you can overcome that style. Yeah,
you got to realize you're never going to get through to those people. Because those are the people that hate Guillermo Rigondeaux. Those are the people that don't value that sort of ring generalship, hit and not get hit. Well, then boxing is not the sport for them, because because with Rigondeaux, Lara, Mayweather, Andre Ward, what fighters like that do, they're not only fighters, but they're boxers, and the sport is boxing. It's not knockout kings. It's not slugfest. If you want to go see, just some rowdy people standing in a phone booth and throwing hands at each other, then I don't know, go to Hollywood or West Hollywood on a Friday night, because I mean, this is boxing. There's a science behind it, and that's why they call it the sweet science. Absolutely. And everybody who knows boxing knows that.